You've been talking about the Donald Trump presidency. We have a Twitter poll running on that this morning to find out whether you think it's a good idea that he stands or not. Even if you're a Republican voter, you might think that his day has been and he should step aside and let some newcomers through. Tomo has said on Twitter, can't see Trump succeeding after seeing what happened in the midterms. Porcus has said, big mistake. The Republican Party should give DeSantis a chance. And Trump running is fantastic news for the Democrats. Somebody else has said, and it was hardly a shock that he announced he was running again. He was never going to sit this one out, was he? No, he probably wasn't, actually, Dan, on Twitter. He wasn't necessarily going to sit it out, but still having his official announcement is significant. And other people saying, you know, I actually like Trump. I hope he wins the presidency. It seems as if Trump has unfinished business to complete, and so on. As I say, get involved in our Twitter poll to say whether you support him getting involved, regardless of where you sit politically. But as I said, Donald Trump is back.
I am tonight announcing my candidacy for President of the United States.
He will run for the presidency in 2024, vowing America's comeback starts right now. We are going to be asking, so Donald Trump, is he what America needs? And here to debate this, I'm joined by Paul Duddridge, host of the Politics People podcast, and Aaron Fishbone from Democrats Abroad. Good morning, gentlemen, if you are there. They will be here in just a minute. Paul Duddridge and Aaron Fishbone. They will be with us in just a moment.
Hello, hello, hello.
There we go. Hello, guys. How are you? Thank you for bearing with us. So, first of all, if I can come to you, Paul, it wasn't exactly a shock, but what is your immediate reaction to this news?
Well, it's 2:40 a.m. here in Los Angeles, and I've just been up all night celebrating. So I'm very, very pleased at the news that Donald Trump is going for the hat trick and looking to win the presidency for the third time. And we're just hoping that the Democrats actually let him take office this time.
So why is it good news then, Paul? Tell us. Come on, make the case.
Well, nobody unites the populist vote like Donald Trump. DeSantis, all very well. People can love DeSantis, but DeSantis is a politician. And Donald Trump is the king of the populist politicians, if you like. He's not even a Republican, to be fair. He's not a Democrat. He is a vote for the little guy against the establishment. And this is what you actually need at this point in the United States, is Donald Trump to come and finish the business that he started and, frankly, wasn't allowed to continue in 2020. But he unites populist, conservative politics greater than any leader in the world to date.
Aaron, it's fair to say, obviously, he's an incredibly divisive figure. As a Democrat, I take it you might have mixed feelings about him standing.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say my feelings are mixed at all. They're pretty clear. He should not run again. I mean, you know, your previous segment said that he lost the election to Joe Biden in 2020 by almost 9 million popular votes. So just to correct the record based on what Paul said there. But no, I mean, and it's really noteworthy that after the midterm elections, which were largely a repudiation of his platform, everything he stands for, and his selected candidates, that he feels like he should actually put himself forward again. And he never really stepped out of it. I mean, he endorsed a lot of candidates who ultimately lost. Americans voted to extend health care protections to people. They voted against political violence, against hateful rhetoric, which is exactly what he espoused. So, you know, it was pretty much a drubbing of anything that he would run on and the type of grievance politics he stands for. No, look, there's a lot to do in the world. We need to keep doing what we're doing in order to get out of this inflation and address it, extend healthcare protections to people. And so Trump running to sort of put himself back in the center, as it were, again, is a big mistake. But look, I can understand it. He is extending, he has multiple court cases against him. So he's trying to do this largely in order to protect himself as a legal defense strategy.
Except, Aaron, the reason I say you might have conflicted feelings about it is that you've got Ron DeSantis as an alternative who does not come with the negativity of baggage of Trump. He's more likely to win over the middle classes. Surely that would be worse for you as a Democrat.
Well, look, I mean, who's going to be the Republican nominee for president is still very much to be determined. I mean, sure, Ron DeSantis is doing very well in Florida in terms of electoral politics. He's never been tested on the national stage before. I mean, there's any number of, let's say, successful governors who've gone on to stumble and not ultimately win their party's nominations or not succeed nationally. So I do think it's premature. And also, that's something for the Republicans to figure out who's going to be their nominee, not something I really have to say. What I can say is the Democrats have a lot to run on. We've had a number of major legislative successes, the bipartisan infrastructure bill, the bipartisan gun reform legislation, the Inflation Recovery Act, and all of those, are just huge successes that the Democrats have to run on.
But Biden is just an embarrassment, isn't he, Paul?
Yes, he's an embarrassment. Trump has been a more powerful, effective politician whilst he's actually been on the golf course than Joe Biden's been in the White House. So the idea that the midterms are repudiation of Trump, the stats just don't bear that out at all. 232 of Trump's endorsed candidates actually won. He only had 22 losses. The fact of the matter is the midterms were lost on the repeal of Roe v. Wade. You had Make America Great Again voters in certain states actually voting Democrat because they were going to uphold abortion laws. Yeah. And it's very interesting that the first comment that Biden made after the results of the midterms was that he wasn't going to be able to do anything on abortion. And so abortion is going to be the main political football, if you like, that decides this election in 2024. The Democrats have no intention of codifying Roe v. Wade, which would just make it law. They could just make it law, but they've decided not to because they want to fight on this because they know it's a vote winner. This is not a repudiation of Trump. The fact is, DeSantis might be wonderful, but nobody has the level of recognition that Trump has. I would not be up at 2:40 in the morning talking to anybody about DeSantis announcing. That's going to be a given. And so Trump is still American politics.
Well, we've still got a couple of years to go, of course, until the election. It'll be interesting to see where we go in that time and how the public respond when they get to know more about Ron DeSantis as opposed to just the Floridians at the moment. Let me ask you both about Trump's performance with his announcement, Paul. Has he lost a bit of his sparkle?
I didn't think he'd lost his sparkle. I found him to be slightly less boisterous, more sedate. I think he was definitely aiming to be a little bit more conciliatory and more uniting. Remember, he's now fighting the Republican Party. The Republican Party represents the establishment. They're just another wing of the same party. And so he's trying not to tread on anybody's toes now. So what we saw was, I don't know if you watched it, but I found him to be very, very sort of gentle. He almost said, look, I'm not even going to say fake news. You know, it's like
whilst saying fake news and reminding us what he ran on last time. But you're right. Exactly. I mean, maybe, conciliatory and uniting, Aaron, that's not really words that we associate with Trump traditionally. Can he maintain that illusion that is his personality?
Well, I don't think that is his personality in the first place, so I don't think there's any illusion to maintain. And again, I think the American people have just shown that they don't want that either. They repudiated all of his significant nominees for Secretary of State candidates who are carrying forward his false claims that the election was somehow stolen, despite the fact that it was certified in many cases by Republican canvassing boards. They repudiated his desire to overturn healthcare protections for people. They in fact encouraged So I think there's any number of issues, and they repudiated most of his senatorial candidates. And it's funny too that he inserted himself in and is stepping on the foot of the Georgia Senate race, which is now going to a runoff. So I think all of that is just negative for both Donald Trump and for the Republican now nominee in Georgia, Herschel Walker, who has to go up against the incumbent Senator Raphael Warnock. So look, I think that I think the election was, in fact, a complete repudiation of his platform, his grievance politics, his hate-filled rhetoric. It's not the kind of politics or the kind of policymaking that Democrats want to see, and clearly that American general electoral votes, the majority of Americans, want to see. We want to look forward, not backwards. We know Joe Biden was a democratically elected candidate president. We know that Trump wasn't, and we want to move forward.
Paul, we're living in a post-pandemic world now, and when the next election comes around, who knows how far that will be in the memories of the American people. But how do you think that will have affected how they view Trump? That change of political landscape, the reverberations from the lockdown policies, etc. Will that benefit Trump?
Yes, you say that we're post-pandemic, but actually the White House flip-flops as to when we will be out of the pandemic. They're still looking at February, March next year to officially end absolutely everything. Yeah. My children are still at schools with masks. So we'll wait for former Vice President Joe Biden to let us know whether the pandemic's officially over. No, that level of narrative can't hurt Trump at all. He took the vaccine, he publicly took the vaccine, and he has spoken about the fact that everything should be on the choice of the individual. So, but in 2 years' time, I don't see that being an election issue at all for any candidate, whoever actually gets the Republican nomination.
Aaron, can I just quickly ask you one brief question? Where's Kamala Harris gone? She seems to have disappeared, particularly from British news output. Where is she? Is she on the telly much in America?
Yeah, well, I also live overseas, so I'm seeing her out on the world stage quite a bunch. If you ask if she's not on the British telly, I mean, maybe that's that's your role to cover what she's doing. But with the 50-50 Senate as well, she also had to preside over a lot of important votes. So, therefore, she was in the Senate a lot more than maybe other vice presidents have been. Nonetheless, she's in Indonesia for the G20, and she traveled to Central America quite a bit. She traveled around the country hosting, outreach and engagement work around voting rights and voting enfranchisement. So she's out there doing a lot. And recently she was out there touting some of the recent investments from the Bipartisan Infrastructure Act. So you can certainly follow her and find out what she's doing. And I would encourage you to, feature her a bit more.
OK, both. Thank you so much, guys. Paul Duddridge and Aaron Fishbone there discussing the fact that Trump has now officially made the announcement that we all knew was coming, but has now put his name there on the stamp, on the ballot to hopefully, maybe, in his opinion, get the nomination for the 2024 election.